Hello, everyone. This is Manar Almayouf from Saudi Arabia. I am a lecturer at Almayouf University and a PhD student at King Saud University in Saudi Arabia. I am happy to present for you today a presentation about my study that I have conducted at the beginning of 2023. It is about exploring the dialogism of media, newspaper articles, heteroglossic engagement in newspaper articles about Saudi women empowerment in Arab News Journal. I'll take you through a quick introduction about the research topic, and then we will look at some studies related to engagement system, research gap, theoretical framework that we have used, methodology, specifically the context, data analysis and a procedure, results and discussion, and we will conclude this presentation. So at the beginning, we are talking about women, and women in Saudi Arabia have gained international attention in world news due to the successful development in the last 6 years in Saudi Arabia. However, being under the spotlight in the media does not always reflect positivity and acceptance of this change. The Saudi media is now under greater pressure to show the world objectively what has changed in the last 6 years. In Saudi Arabia, there are many newspapers that are for English speakers audience. How can these journals reflect their point of view about women's empowerment and a change in Saudi society? For this reason, I chose to explore 10 articles about Saudi women published in the Arab News Journal from 2020 to 2023. So at the beginning, let's look at a woman as a topic in Western society. And we all know that women have been studied widely in different fields. There are some studies that have applied the appraisal system or the appraisal framework on topics that are related, or in studies that are related to female studies or women studies. So, for example, there are studies about feminism issues in Western media, such as the studies by Abdul Muttalib 2017, Fathallah and Al-Khazraji 2022. There are some studies related to linguistic violence against women in the press, such as Marskawati 2016, Santimilia, and Miranda 2014. There is also a study that investigated the differences between articles written by female authors from gender perspective, Fitriani 2020, and also a study by Aloy Mayo and Tiboda 2017 about political articles that are addressing women. Also, a study by Bonton 2010 was about political speech by a leader woman. Here we are talking about Margaret Thatcher. Also, there are studies that are focusing on comparison between men's and women's style and writing about women-themed articles, such as Vakia et al. 2022 and Sutherland and Andrew 2014. There is also a study about the difference between men and women style and storytelling by Page 2003. So most common features in studies that use the engagement system, specifically on a newspaper, according to Hahn 2016, it was acknowledgement and endorsement features. Also, Fitriani 2022, she found that acknowledgement features were used more by women than men in their articles. Let's look at the research gap of this study. To the best of our knowledge, there are no studies on using the engagement framework to explore Saudi women-themed articles. So in this study, I am investigating Arab news journals specifically. It's an English language Arabic-based journal addressing the world, where articles about Saudi women are introduced regularly. I'm looking at the dialogic linguistic features that are used to engage the putative readers of Arab news journal about Saudi women-themed articles. My research questions are: how did engagement resources help to express and position authors' point of view to realistic and to personal meaning in a heteroglossic discussion? What are features of heterogloss are disseminated in the newspaper articles written by male and female writers about Saudi women empowerment? The theoretical framework of this study, we are applying the appraisal framework since it has been applied to different types of discourse such as literary work, news, legal, scientific, and academic discourse. The appraisal framework was developed by Martin and White 2005 within SFLIG as a means of mapping out the resources we can use to provide value to social experience. According to Martin and White, the appraisal framework is concerned with investigating the degree of a speakers and writers' engagement with the prior speakers and writers' beliefs and values. Moreover, how the speaker or writer position themselves with other values and beliefs, for example, standing with or without, neutral or undecided, what and how they are trying to convey to the readers or the listeners. In other words, the appraisal framework is directed towards providing a systematic account of how such positioning is achieved linguistically. So the appraisal framework is constituted of 3 categories: engagement, attitude, and graduation. And for the purpose of this study, we are concerned with the engagement system only. The engagement system includes linguistic resources that the writer uses to show his or her position towards the values demonstrated in the text, taking into account their readers. The engagement system is divided into main categories: monogloss and heterogloss. And monoglossic does not overtly reference other voice or viewpoints, while heteroglossic includes all resources that allow for other voices or viewpoints in the discourse. If you look at the top of this slide, you can see that the subcategories, the main subcategories in the engagement system are the heterogloss and the monogloss. And within the heterogloss features, we can find many subcategories such as contract and expand. And within the contract, you can find the disclaim and proclaim. Inside the disclaim, you can find deny features such as not or didn't or never. You can find counter features like yet, although, or but. And you can find in the proclaim features, conquer features that like affirming features, for example, of course, and obviously. And you can find concede features like admittedly. Also, you can find pronounced features such as I contend, or the facts, or indeed. You can find endorsement features such as the report demonstrates, shows, or proves. If you look at the expand features, you can find also 2 subcategories: the entertain features and the attribute features. Within the entertain features, you can find features or propositions like perhaps, it's probable that, this may be, must, and so on. Within the attribute features, you can find acknowledgement features such as holiday argues, for example, or believes, or said, or reports, or states. The distance features, for example, like claimed. So the methodology, if we look at the methodology of this study, let's look at the context and the data. So we have 10 newspaper articles were chosen from the Arab News Journal according to the keywords Saudi women and Saudi women empowerment. Our corpus of the articles is concerned with the most recent period from November 2020 to January 2023. Arab News Journal is the first English language daily newspaper in Saudi Arabia, as it was founded in 1975, and it has become the Middle East's leading English daily. It is one of more than 30 brands by Saudi Research Publishing Company, SRPC, a subsidiary of Saudi Research and Media Group. Arab News Journal has an electronic website. In 2018, Arab News Journal has adopted a new motto presented on the official website, which is the voice of a changing region, to demonstrate its new goal and mission. Many articles were published about Saudi women and Saudi women's empowerment in Arab News Journal. This is a table of the articles that I have used in this study. They are organized according to their publication dates. The total number of this corpus is 8,728 words. The data analysis tool, we've used the UAM corpus tool. It's used by researchers working with the appraisal framework. And it was developed by O'Donnell 2008. It has a user-friendly interface for annotating text based on a coding scheme defined by the user. It also incorporates various useful text analysis tools, including a statistic module, which allows the researcher to compute the frequency of annotated categories automatically. The data analysis procedure, the articles were cleaned to exclude any remarks by the journal. Then they were divided into 2 data sets, and they were uploaded to the UAM corpus tool. The analysis was conducted through a built-in manual appraisal analysis of the engagement scheme without any modification to the scheme. The engagement items were identified and assigned features in each data set. Data annotated and re-annotated manually. In order to analyze data, descriptive and contrastive statistics were prepared by using the UAM tool. A contrastive descriptive analysis was applied to each dataset separately, since one contained more words than the other. In each dataset, the overall percentage of engagement items identified was calculated based on the total word count. And then comparisons were made between men and women's articles. Regarding the results in the discussion, they were divided into 2 parts. The first part regarding the heteroglossic features applied in all articles in general. And the second part is a comparison between the use of heteroglossic propositions between male and female journalists. So for the first part, we're looking at the heteroglossic features applied in all articles in general. You can see in the table that heteroglossic features were more than monoglossic features. And if we look at the contractive and expansive resources, you can see that the expansive resources were more than the contractive resources. Looking at the proclaim and disclaim resources or features, you can find that proclaim features are more than disclaim features. Looking at the contractive resources specifically, you can see that the counter features were more than the deny features, and for the proclaim features, the endorsement was the most used features between or among the rest of the features. Looking at the expand resources, you can see that 100% acknowledgement features were used. It's clear from the data that the journalists preferred using heteroglossic features more than the monoglossic ones. In other words, the author's voice was heteroglossic, which shows that they are allowing and accepting negotiation with other voices who might have a different opinion. Moving to look at heteroglossic features in the articles, it's obvious that expansive features are more than contractive features. And this indicates that the authors are opening up the space for more alternative voices, which is clear in the article. You can look at some examples from the articles that are using the expansive features. Here we have acknowledgement features, like, for example, Nashar said, and in the second example, Primaya told. Within the subcategory of engagement contraction, there are proclaiming and disclaiming dialogic features. And the writer, as we have said, used more proclaim resources than the disclaim ones. And for proclaiming was mostly expressed by endorsement features, followed by justify resources and pronounce resources, and with no use of concurrent resources at all. And that indicates that the writer are completely aligned with the external voices included in their articles. This is an example of endorsement feature. Here she pointed out. Disclaiming features were expressed mostly by countering, and that shows that the journalists negotiated some other opinions in their articles. This is an example of using countering features like only, and we have here not, it's a deny feature. And we have but also as a counter feature. Within the expansive feature, we have entertain and attribute resources. And the formulation of attribution were the most common type in the whole data, with 100% fully for acknowledgement features, with no using of distancing resources at all. That shows that the associated external ideas and voices in these articles were engaged interactively by the authors. This is an example of acknowledgement feature, like thanks, Jeopardy thanks. The entertainment features were about only 10%. Looking at comparison between men and women journalist stances and women-themed article, you can see that men used heteroglossic features more than women, and in contrast, women used monoglossic features more than the men writers. Also, if you look at the contract and expand resources, you can see that men journalists used expand features more than women used expand features more than men, and you can see that men used contract features more than women. Also, men journalists or male journalists used proclaiming resources more than women journalists. If we look at in detail for disclaim and proclaim, you can find that male journalists used countering resources and endorsement resources more than female writers. And if you look at if you look at the endorsement and the proclaiming, that was used more by male than female journalists. If we look at the expand features, you can see that the acknowledgement features were used more by female writers than the male writers. Again, it's clear from the data that male journalists preferred using heteroglossic features more than female journalists, and female journalists used more monoglossic propositions than males. In other words, the male authors are allowing and accepting negotiation with their audience readers who might have different opinions more than women journalists. In contrast, women journalists closed up some discussion and presented their positions clearly. It seems that Saudi women journalists believe in empowerment, and they are closing negotiation about empowerment. Also, regarding male and female writers, they both prefer using expansive features. For male authors, they used, as we have said, endorsement and countering resources more. And for female writers, they used acknowledgement resources more. In conclusion, this study aimed to investigate the use of heteroglossic feature in Saudi women-themed articles written by male and female journalists in Arab News Journal. It shows that the author's voice in Arab News Journal in general allow alternative voices for negotiation, and authors interact with other external points of view mentioned in the articles. Comparing men and women journalist voices, female journalists prefer to acknowledge other voices, and male journalists prefer to endorse and counter other external voices included in their articles. To conclude, the Arab News Journal supports the external voices that encourage and praise the achievement of Saudi women. The female and male authors are different in using the linguistic formulations, but they accomplish the same goal, which is embracing the women empowerment in Saudi Arabia. For limitations and implications, this study cannot be generalized because of the number of words. It's considered a small number of corpus. And it is one researcher work, so it needs another, let's say, another opinion or another point of view to look at the data. For the implications for this study, we can say that more journal types should be investigating regarding Saudi women empowerment and Saudi issues and topics. Also, journalists, according to their nationality, could be compared. So, for example, Saudi journalists and non-Saudi journalists regarding their use of engagement formulations. Comparisons also between various journals could be applied, and not only the Arab News Journal, but we can also use another journals or English journals in Saudi Arabia. Also, a larger number of words should be included to look at this topic in more details. Thank you for your listening, and these are my references. I'm happy to listen to your questions, and thank you so much.